Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now today we've got this little killer Sudoku for you. Now I imagine this is going to be brilliant. It's getting rave reviews on Logic Masters Germany and it's by Sam Cappleman-Lynes. Now those of you who know the channel will know that I am a huge fan of Sam's puzzles. Sam represents the UK every year in the World Sudoku Championship and he is an awesome setter of Sudoku. Now, he sent me an email about how he set this puzzle, which was quite amusing, but he also said that this puzzle might be quite difficult, he said, and his wife has two rules about Sam's puzzles, and these reminded me about the rules of Fight Club. So Sam's wife says about Sam's puzzles that rule 1 is that Sam's puzzles are always harder than Sam thinks they are, and rule 2 is that rule 1 applies even already taking rule 1 into account. So I think what she's saying there is that Sam's puzzles are just hard. Now, Logic Masters Germany suggests this is 3 out of 5 stars, so more sort of intermediate level. So I'm hoping it won't make for too long a video, but we'll see. Now, a couple of things to mention. To all those of you who sponsor us on Patreon, obviously, it is hugely appreciated by Mark and me. We are very grateful. And we are pleased to say that your reward puzzle for March has gone live. So do check your Patreon emails. You should find a sandwich Sudoku with a little bit of a twist in there. Yeah, we hope you enjoy it. And also, today is a big day for the channel because we are launching our Chess Sudoku app. We've had confirmation it's going to go live on Steam later today, so check out that page if you plan to play the game on PC or on Mac. As for Android and the App Store, we've asked that today is the day that it gets released, but I'm not certain whether we can't control it, basically. We'll wait to hear from them, and they will hopefully do as we have asked. So, anyway, let's have a look at this. How does Little Killer Sudoku work? It's a really nice, simple variant. So let's look at this 10 clue. You can see the arrow pointing into the grid. These 5 cells have to add up to 10. That's it. The only other sort of slight rinky-dink is that you can repeat digits along this line. Obviously, you can't make these 2 squares the same because these 2 squares are in the same box. But it's perfectly possible in this sum, for example, all these 3 squares could be the same digit. They would be fine because they're all in different boxes. And that's all there is to Little Killer. Now, it's worth noting at the start that this does look like a fairly minimalist construction. There's only 10 clues given outside the grid, no digits at all in the grid. So it's going to be interesting. Now, if you want to have a go, and I definitely recommend it, click on the link under the video. That will take you to exactly this page where you should be able to play on whichever device takes your fancy. And with that, let's get cracking. And in fact, I may return to that 10 clue because that was intriguing me. So you can see, well, I can see straight away this square has to be quite low, and that's because even if I make that a 1 and a 2 and this a 1 and a 2, those would add up to 6. This square would have to be 4 or less. So we know this square is 4 or less. But we don't, I think, know much more than that. Okay, let's have a look somewhere else. You can see these 5 cells. We've got a 5 clue and a 12 clue, so that's 17. Now 17 in 5 cells you can make in 2 different ways. That could be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 7, or 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6. So we know there's a 1, 2 and a 3 in these 5 cells. That's not actually going to be useful. Okay, sorry, let me just have a bit more of a stare. I'm sure we'll... Oh, no, hang on, I've spotted it. Right, so 10 and 21 here. That adds up to 31, so we need these cells to add up to 31. Now that is beautiful. Now, why do I say that? Do click on pause if you can't see it, because what we're actually able to do here is to write in this square just by looking at these two clues. Now, the reason we can do that is by considering what is the minimum value of the 5 cells in this box and the minimum value of the 5 cells in this box. So these yellow squares here, if we make them the minimum we can, we'd make them the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now that adds to 15. So we know we've got 15 here and another 15 here as a minimum. That means that we've got 30 as a minimum, but we've still got 1 cell to fill. So this square must be a 1. We can't make it less than a 1. And these squares have all got to be the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So, and then we can get rid of 1s there and there. And now look, down here we've got a 15 and a 16. Well, that also adds to 31. Right, so as is very common with Sam's puzzles, he loves sort of symmetrical ideas, and we've got exactly the same thing going on. So we can label these. That square's got to be a 1 again, and these squares have got to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And what now? There might be something going along on 31 clue. Let's just, those squares there, which are on the 31 clue, are constrained by the contents of this box. So we know the minimum I can make these 4 squares would be 13 here with a 6 and a 7, and 13 here with another 6 and a 7. So that would be 26. So the maximum value for those 3 squares would be 5. That 1, oh yeah, that's lovely. So this 1 forces these to have a minimum value of 2. So we now know that we've got, if we add up all of these squares together, they have an absolute minimum value of, you've guessed it, 30. So this square must be a 1 again. And now we can delete some more 1s in the grid. The 5 clue now is resolved because we can't use 2 and 3, so that's got to be 1 and 4. Oh, that's got to be 1 and 4 like that. These can't be 2 actually. Let's get rid of some of the 2s we've got pencil marked in the grid. These 2 squares have got to add up to 10 because we've got a 12 clue. We've already got 2 there. Now okay, so they're 3 and 7. It can't be 1, 9. It can't be 2, 8. It can't be 4, 6. So this is 3 and 7. So we haven't used these clues and we haven't used this clue. This 20 clue, look, we could make, so the minimum value these squares could have would be 6. If I make them both 6, that would be the absolute minimum, because obviously we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 in their boxes already. So the minimum value for these squares would be 12. That means the maximum value for those squares would be 8. But now these 2s are important here, because the 2s mean, yeah, okay, so the minimum value of these 2 squares is 7, because I can't use a 1 and a 2 in either of them. So if these were 7, these would have to be 6 and 7. If these could be 8, these could be 3 and 5. And if they're 3 and 5, these would have to repeat. These would both have to be 6. And I don't think we can disambiguate what's going on there. So let's have a look at these two. These add up to 29. Now that's going to be... So these squares, the yellow squares, must add to 27, just deducting the 2 there. So 27 in 4 squares must include a 9. We know there's a 9 in one of these squares. That's because 8, 7, 6 and 5 add up to 26, I think. So if the 9 was in the 13 total, this would be 4, 9 and this would be 6, 8. If the 9 is in this total, these would be 5, 9 and this would be 6, 7. Ah, okay, so we now know... Ah, yes, okay, so where does the 1 go in that box? The 1 can't be... These ones rule out all those squares. There can't be a 1 here, so this square must be a 1. Now this square must be a 1. Oh, hang on, I've got a visitor. 1 second. Samuel, sorry, my son was telling me about his spelling test. He did very well. Now, well, I've lost my train of thought entirely. I think I just put this 1 in the grid. Yes, I did. Okay, so... well, that's very helpful. Look, that means this square's a 1. This 1 means that we get a 1 and a 4 there. That means... okay, so we've now got one of these two is a 1 and one of these two is a 1. Neither of those squares can be 4 anymore because of the 4 here. This can't be a 4 anymore. This can't be a 1. That can't be a 1. Now, okay, so... Two here means there's a 2 in one of those squares. That means that's not a 2 at the top. And the 2's therefore force a 2 into one of those 2 squares. That means there's a 2 in one of those 3. Right, okay, so what do I do now? So we've used this clue. We've used these 2 clues. I've thought about these 2 clues without much success. Sorry about this, just let me have a stare for a second. 7th. So we've looked at 1s, we've looked a little bit at 2s. Now I could have labelled those in. Those have got to be 6 and 7, look, because they're on this diagonal. We know these have to be minimums. So that means those are 8 and 9. But also it means we've got a 6-7 pair, look, in column 4. So that now there's also a 6-7 pair in row 4. So this is very interesting. So now we know that these 3 squares, 2 of them have got to be 6 or 7. And look at this, this is a very unusual pattern. There's a 6-7 option in these cells. So can this square ever be a 6 or a 7? Let's ask ourselves that question. And the answer is no. Let's look at it. So let's say I made that a 7. Where am I going to put the 6? We know the 6 can't be in those squares. And whichever position I put the 6 into will break the corresponding cell here. So if I put it there, obviously this square has no value. If I put it there, this square has no value. So this square can never be a 6 or a 7, which means the 6 and 7 must go into those squares. So now we've got loads of 6 and 7s in the grid. Oh my god, that is unbelievable. Okay, now this is something special. This is something very special we're about to look at here. Good grief. So, a while ago, we looked at this diagonal and we were thinking about whether or not these could both be 6. Now look at this. In fact, it's not possible for these squares to be the same digit. And the reason is, look at this arrangement of 6s and 7s posted round the grid here. So let's highlight all of these and just take a quick stare at this. This is quite a stunning pattern. Now, what happens if these two digits are the same? Let's make them a 6 and have a look. Can you see? Isn't that beautiful? It's just beautiful. It forces 6s into those two squares, and now we can't fill these squares. They have to both be 7, and that's not allowed. And it would work exactly the same way if we tried to put 2 7s into those squares. Oh, that is gorgeous. So this is not a 6-6 pair, therefore it is a 6-7 pair. Now I don't know which way round that goes, I don't think. But I do know these two squares have got to add up to 7 now, so there's no 5 in there anymore. 4 here means we actually get the digits. We get a 3 and a 4. The 3, look, that gives us a 3 here and a 7 here. And the 7 locks us into this chain of 6 7s. So now we get 6 7, 6 7, 6 7. This is now a 6, I think, because of the 7 down here. So that must be a 7 because of the logic that we did. And there must be a 6 in one of those squares. 7s here and here mean this is a 7. 7 in one of those two squares. Don't think we quite know where the 7 goes here. What about the 7 must be in one of those two squares. I feel like we've just made a flurry of progress, and I now need to be a bit careful about making sure that every deduction I've made there, yeah, this has got to be a 3. We know one of these is a 3, it can only be this one. That's not 3. This isn't 3. Oh, now down here, we said these added up to, well, we know these add up to 29. But, yeah, but there's never a 3 in the yellow squares. So the 3 must be in one of those squares, and the 3 there tells us it's got to be this one. Okay, 1 second. Must be a 6 in one of these two squares now. Therefore, there's a 6 over here as well as a 7. Now, let me just take a stare. This can't be 3. I think there are loads of pencil markings that I need to actually remove that I've just, because of the deductions we've just made. Yeah, look, there's all of these things going on that I'm probably going to miss some of them. 4, 6. Now hang on. Now look, there's so many. Yeah, look at the bottom row. Where do the numbers 6 and 7 go in the bottom row? Well, this 6 and 7 rule out 6 and 7 from those squares. This one could be a 6 or a 7, but we've got 6, 7 there, so this one can't be. 6, 7 there, that one can't be. So only those two positions can be 6 and 7. So this can't be a 9 anymore. Oh, and this can't be 9 either, because these two add up to 13. So in fact, this is a 6 or a 7. And look, there's a 7 up there, so we're going to be able to make more progress now. 6, 7. This is a 6. That's not a 6. This must be a 7. That must be a 7. Now, have we done... We haven't done all 6s and 7s. That one's a 6, look. Therefore, that one's a 6. We've now done all the 6s and all the 7s. These two squares have got to be 8 and 9. These have got to be 5, 8 and 9. Now if these are 6 and 7, these two have got to be 5 and 9 to add up to 14. These two have got to be 4 and 8, therefore to complete the box. That means that square's a 5. Oh, and now we might be getting somewhere. So we've got a 3, 4 pair now as well in this column. So 1, 2, so this has got to be an 8 or a 9. These two are 6, 8 or 9. And the 8s down here are going to shift the 8 into that square. So that's 8, that's 9, that's 6. Oh, no, hang on. I thought I'd done all the 6s already. I must have missed that one. I don't think I did it. I think I probably just misspoke rather than doing any bad logic. So I think I'll keep going. 8 here means we've got 9 here, 8 here. So there must be an 8 in one of those two squares. Oops. That can't be a 9 anymore. This can't be an 8 anymore. Um, 5 here. Is that helpful? That rules a 5 out from that square. It might now be possible to use some of these totals again. Well, yeah, it's certainly possible to use this 15 total. If we look at that, if this is not a 2, it's broken immediately, because if I have a 4, 5 option here, these 3 squares would add up to 10, and that would mean these 3 squares would have to add up to 5 to make 15. You can't make 3 squares add up to 5 in the same box, so this simply has to be a 2. It means one of those two squares is a 2. Oh, but more than that, let's look at this 15 clue again. Now we know these 3 squares either add up to 7 or they add up to 8. Now, if whichever one of those they add up to, that means these 3 squares add up to 7 or 8. Now, the one thing I know about both those totals is they must always include a 1. Therefore, this square is a 1. Which means this square is a 1, this is a 2. Oh, this is oh no, I penciled marked 3 2s in there. That's a shame. I thought I was going to get a 2 and an 8, but I'm not. 2 shifts down here. These squares have got to be 3, 4 and 9 in some order. That one can't be 3. Oh, 9's, that one can't be 9. These have got to be 2, 5 and 8. Okay. Right, so we just need, I think, one more piece of good logic and we should be on the home straight. Now let's see if we can find it. So this 10 clue now, I've got this 2 in it. So these add up to 4. These two have to add up to 6. That's it. This can't be 3 because I can't put a 3 into this square. So this is 4. This is 3. So that's not 4 anymore. Must be able to delete more stuff from this. This can't be 3 anymore. Sorry, it can't be 3 anymore. That can't be 8. I thought I was going to do better, but still we've now got 4 of the 5 numbers, so these add up to 8. This must be a 2. That's a 5, that's a 4, that's a 3, that's a 5. Oh yes, that's 5 and 9. 5. This must be an 8 now. That gives a 2-5 pair here, so this is a 4. That can't be a 3 anymore. This can't be a 4. Got 3s here and here, so this has to be a 3, doesn't it? Now, shifts a 3 over onto that side. This square, look, has to be a 3 or an 8, looking at the totals in the column. Oh, actually, I didn't mean to highlight all of those. It's just this one, that's 3 or 8. This one we can fill in. It's got to be a 5. Oh, now that 5 does help over here. That gives us those squares, look. 2-4 pair now, so this is 3. These should be disambiguated, so we've got 7, we need 8 more, so that's got to be a 4, that's the 2. One of those 2 squares is a 4. The 2 is now fixed here. I've got a 3 in there. This should be 4 or 8, I think. So we've used all of the columns, all of the outside clues, sorry. I think we have. This can't be 8. That's got to be 5 or 9 down there. Two 5 is resolved, obviously. That's got to be that way round. The 4 resolves the 4, 9 up here. That's going to get us the 8, 9, the 5, the 8. 9 here, 5 here. Yeah, I think we're there. What a beautiful puzzle. I mean, we have had some stunning puzzles on this channel recently. We really have been so lucky. Now we're looking for 4 and 9. You can see, I think that's got to be that way round. What a puzzle, Sam. That was stupendous. Do let me know in the comments what you thought of that. For me, yeah, one of the best puzzles that we've done recently, and that is saying quite something. See you tomorrow on Cracking the Cryptic.